The Centre for Computing History in Cambridge holds many themed events throughout the year. The Made in Japan weekend is a celebration of Japanese technology, creativity, and innovation, featuring many machines and games that didn't make it to the West.
So obviously I've always been into computers, particularly pre-386 computers. My first computer I ever owned being a 286, and my dad dragged out the skip from work. But I also had a Mega Drive as a child, which I enjoyed. And where these two interests come together is with this, the Sega Terra Drive. It's a 286 computer based on the IBM PS2 Model 50, but it's got a Mega Drive built in, which is incredible. I love it. Based on an IBM PS2 Model 50, although the motherboard is custom designed for Sega, unlike the Amstrad Mega PC, which was a PC and a Mega Drive, but literally two machines in one case. The only thing they shared was the video output. This is actually fully integrated. The Mega Drive and the PC side can communicate with each other. So the PC side can load that data into Mega Drive memory, set it running, turn it on, turn it off, and you can, in theory, even boot PC code off the cartridge slot if you've got the ROM headers set right. There's a fellow online who's been reverse engineering all the I/O ports, how it works, and it's all really very detailed and interesting. I also know that the PC side can use the Mega Drive's memory as expanded memory, so bank switched into the PC address space. Right now it's set to Mega Drive mode. You do get a control pad, which is actually branded Computer Video Game Control Pad. Other than that, it's exactly like a regular one. And you get this lovely keyboard with it, nice and clicky, with all the extra keys for Japanese input. It came in 3 different variants, one of which had a floppy drive, one which had 2 floppy drives, and one which had a hard drive and a floppy drive. This is the Model 3. Reset button there for the Mega Drive, power button on the right, control ports go in the left, there's a little flap that covers them, keyboard and mouse on the right, volume control, but you can also flip it into PC mode, and at this point the PC starts up as usual. Quick memory check, it actually boots into this little mini DOS, which lets you inspect disks, format disks, copy files around, or you can exit to full DOS, which is actually DOS/V, which was the Japanese version of DOS that has all the extra drivers to support Japanese input method editing, and it runs in graphical mode to display all the Japanese characters, because text mode on a PC just doesn't have the resolution for it. So dir/W. There's not much on this hard drive. I've already dumped it all. It's just a bog standard DOS/V installation. But yeah, lovely little monitor. You can use a VGA monitor with a Terra drive, but you won't be able to see the Mega Drive output because that's at 15 kilohertz and VGA is 31 kilohertz. So these monitors are specific to this machine and they're quite hard to get hold of. You can also, if you hold down the right key combination as it starts up, run them independently. So you can have computer output on the monitor and Mega Drive output on the composite. So you can game while you work. I don't know. I don't actually know how much these cost originally. They were only sold in Japan. They sold probably less than 100,000 of them. As far as I know, it was a fairly dedicated following amongst people who owned them. There was an online service as well that you could dial into called TerraNet, which was supported, I think, until 1998. So there are dumps of the content from that floating around online if you care to look. Unfortunately, almost everything about it is in Japanese. So if you don't know Japanese, it's kind of hard to use the machine or to learn about it. Yeah. But yeah, I really love this machine. It's a 286 and it's a Mega Drive, both my interests. Oh, and this little flap at the top here, if you remove that, that's got the connector that lets you attach a Mega CD. Although I don't quite know how you do that, presumably some sort of ribbon cables involved. Yeah, no, it is nice to have these out and on display. Obviously, having them turned on helps keep them going, but it's nice to be able to share them with other people, I guess. People come along and say, oh my God, you've got a Terra drive. That makes me feel good. But also, it's nice that people can start to use these things that normally you might not see. That didn't come out at all well, did it? So, Sega made lots of games consoles, but only ever made 3 computer models. And this is the rarest of them all, I think. It's the Sega AI computer. So it's got this lovely little keyboard, proper keys. It's also detachable. It pops off the top there, and then you've got this lovely digitizer underneath. Very similar to the graphic tablet used by the Master System, but bigger. controls on the right, you've got a D-pad, up, down, left, right, 2 select buttons, and the flap at the top is where software goes in, so this would be shipped on card. Very similar in physical format to the card you could get for the SG-1000 on the Master System, although obviously the software is completely different because this actually runs an 8086 processor rather than a Motorola, which is very odd. You'll notice at the bottom where the branding is, it's all a bit muted, none of the bright Sega blue, and that's because this was an educational computer designed to be used in schools. So it says, AI computer, Sega Prologue, bringing you into the world of artificial intelligence. Prologue, of course, being a declarative, logical language, I suppose, much touted at the time for artificial intelligence. So what we've got here is a Sega Mark III, so that's pre-Master System games console by Sega, and in my opinion one of the better looking ones. The Mark II was a bit of an ugly beast, being a sort of blue-grey colour, and you'll notice it's got this little aerial sticking out at the top of it. That's actually the Sega Telecon pack, and the idea behind this was you wouldn't need a cable to connect the console to your TV. Instead, you plug this pack into the back, and it wirelessly transmits the video signal over to the receiver, and is fashioned to look a little bit like a radar dish, although if you flip it over, you'll find actually it's just a regular, boring old wire. But it looks the part, which is important. Obviously, the Mark III followed on from the Mark II, which followed on from the SG-1000, which was Sega's first console. And this black computer behind it, despite being called the SC-3000, is actually an SG-1000 with a keyboard attached. Both could run all the same software, but the SC-3000 with the keyboard meant you could also get the basic cartridge, which had, I think, 24K of extra RAM, so you could load in your programs. Obviously, you'd save your data to cassette and load it back. SC-3000 actually available in a variety of colours, and also with a different keyboard. You get one that had proper domed keys rather than these rubber membrane stuff. Yeah, so the Mark III, it came with these detachable joypads, and there's a little hole in the centre of the D-pad. You could screw in a little nub in, turn it into a tiny, tiny joystick. Or you could get the SJ300 joystick, which is on the right here, which is a bit more sturdier. It hasn't quite got clicky micro switches in it, but it'll do you better than a joypad. Joypads are detachable, unlike the SG-1000, which had a hardwired one. And for software, obviously you could either get it on cartridges or it had this card slot on the front. Cards topped out at around 32K, so they weren't used for larger games. Sorry, it was the Master System was the last system to support having software on cards. After that, it was all cartridges, simply because the games were growing so large. I think Japanese homes and apartments tended to be smaller than they had in the US, so the early games consoles, they tended to have very short leads. Everything was supposed to be much closer together, and having an all-in-one unit, it meant you could just push it under a table, out the way. It was quite neat. Which makes Telecon Pack slightly bizarre, because with everything so close together and compact, why would you need your console to be so far away from the TV?
I think that it's important to show the Japanese consoles, not just the Western market consoles, because it shows you how different they look, the different they play, and the different varieties of games that they include. Like, you've got the Panasonic Q and you've got the Play DR, and you compare it to something like the GameCube or the N64, and it's just completely different gameplay experience, and they look completely different.
Hi, my name's Dan. I'm a volunteer at Centre for Computing History, and I really dig train games. So my setup is devoted to a series called Adventure to Go, which translated to English means Let's Go by Train. It's a series of train sims. Yeah, it's my bag. I lived in Japan for a while. I rode a lot of trains while I was out there, and that kind of seeped into my bones, and now I can't stop playing games about trains. I've got a few here. The one I'm playing right now, this is a children's version. This isn't part of the Adventure to Go series. This is part of a series of Japanese toy trains called Plarail. And that's why you've got these big blue tracks on screen here. This isn't a real train simulator. So here I've got on the far left, I've got my PlayStation 4 playing the virtual reality Adventure to Go, the most modern one. Came out in 2020. And yeah, I've got the Switch version of Tetsudo Nippon, Japanese railway sim, the Hakone edition. So you can drive a virtual train around Hakone. And that's cool because that one's all recorded video. So you play the game by kind of streaming the video using the controller. And on the far right here, I've got Adventure to Go Professional on the PlayStation 1, which is a phenomenal collection of trains from all across Japan and all sorts of cool tracks. Yeah, trains equals awesome. So my first experience with Adventure to Go was in the arcades in Japan. I played 1 and 2, but the one that really got me into it was on the Wii. So Densha to Go Shinkansen X on the Wii, which is a collection of bullet trains, and it's ultimately the most chilled game you'll ever play in your life. It's so relaxed. Only one train line, but there's like 8 different trains you can run on it, but it's wicked fun. And so now I've got them all, and I'm currently working through each one in order and making a YouTube series on each one of the games. And currently I'm playing this one on the right, Densha to Go Pro on the PlayStation 1. Came out in 1999, and I freaking love that one. That's probably my favourite one so far. Amazing culmination. This one here I've got is a limited edition silver colour. Normally they're grey blacky colour. The handle on the left is your master controller, that's your throttle. And the dial controller on the right is the brake lever. And across the front you've got select start because it's a PlayStation game and you'd need those. And ABC buttons are used to choose options, and the C button is the horn in-game.
I really enjoy the challenge of trying to figure them out. It's such a seemingly mundane activity that has a lot of depth and skill in it that you wouldn't necessarily assume, so it's really interesting. And the controllers take you into it more because you get that, tactile feel of kind of actually controlling the train. It's rather than just doing it on buttons. I love games with peripherals, so we both love games with peripherals.
So you'll see over time the games don't really change much because you're driving a train. So all you can do is start and stop. The series went dormant for a long, long while. So in 2004, Densha to Go Final came out on the PS2, and it went away for a long time. Then in 2010, it came back on the Nintendo DS with the 100th anniversary of the Yamanote line. And a few years after that, 2017, it came back to the arcades with Densha to Go, which is what my marquee is from. That's from the modern incarnation. You can tell because it's got 2 exclamation marks and not 1. Very important. So there are handheld versions of this. There's on the Game Boy, Wonder Swan, and Neo Geo Pocket Color. They're all fairly naff, to be fair. The DS one's actually really good, really solid. You control your lever action using the touchscreen. So I've been playing this for, oh my god, I first went into Japan 20 odd years ago. It's only like hardcore, seriously collecting hardcore into it, the last 5 or 6 or so. But as for the future, I generally don't know. So we had the arcade game come out in 2017, and not much has happened since then. It's getting regular updates in Japan, like I mentioned. They've got mission packs for the arcade. They bravely bought a version for the PS4 and the Switch out, but since then, nothing. So I reckon for the future of Densha to Go there probably isn't one. I'd love there to be. I'd love to be more coming out all the time. I want PS5 versions of Densha to Go. I want Switch 2 has a nice version. That'd be great, but it's not going to happen. It's niche enough in Japan, so any chance of a global one, not happening.
Well, the Plaid is a rather strange one. So it's another in a long line of failed Bandai consoles, God bless them, they kept trying. They had reasonable success with the Wonder Swan, but they were always trying to do something just a little bit different. Nice wireless controller that just sits on the front here. It's just quite an original machine, really. I think Bandai had the license to things like Hello Kitty that we got here and Ultraman, and I think there was a Dynasty Warriors game on it as well. We've had it in the collection for quite a while. It was just one of those strange things that turned up amongst a whole load of other Japanese machines. This is the perfect event to showcase it, so there's a lot of machines out today that are just incredibly either rare or niche, and this just fits the bill perfectly.
1978. That's the year that this Toshiba Visicom 100 came out, which I've only just found out about a couple of years ago. So once finding out about it, I had to go hunt it down and add it to the collection. Took a little while, but we got there in the end. We've got a few other machines here. We've got the Divers Dreamcast TV, which is one of my favorites. It's a Dreamcast inside a TV. It looks like an alien Sonic head. And we've got the Famicom TV, talk about consoles in TVs. This is the comes in a beautiful red box. It's a Japanese Famicom built into a 14-inch TV. One of the earliest consoles that's an all-in-one system. Then talking about Nintendo, we've got the Panasonic Q, just a wonderful collaboration between Panasonic and Nintendo, which is the full-size DVD drive with the GameCube all in one, so you can play GameCube games and DVDs. And you think if Nintendo had released their GameCube with DVD functionality from the offset, maybe it would have done better. I know the PlayStation 2 did great because of the DVD drive. I brought along the Super Famicom Satellaview, which is the only add-on that goes underneath the Super Nintendo that allows you to connect to satellite services and download games and play online events with other people as well at the same time. A shame the service no longer runs, but there were some great games on that hopefully people are preserving for future generations to check it out. So The Visicom Com 100 is actually from 1978, which gives it this interesting silver styling. It's sort of a retro future look to it of the year. The controllers are these weird numpads, which have 8-way directions with number 5 in the middle and a 0 at the bottom there. And they house themselves in the console themselves, one leader player 1 and player 2, and they come out on these cables here. But they also come with these joystick add-on bits, which you can see here actually clip onto the top of these numpads. As you move the thing around, the joystick around and press the button, they push through and press the buttons underneath. So it's sort of a add-on joystick for the buttons you got there. So if I remember correctly, there were similar things to this for the ZX Spectrum. You can plug up on top of the keyboard and you can push on down the keys on that. I would imagine the issue with this would be the travel distance. It's quite a long joystick, and so to get from left to right is quite a long distance, which isn't great for quick arcade type games, but the games on the Toshiba Visicom are quite slow anyway, so it's not something that you have to worry about. And the cartridge slot goes in the back. We have a number of cartridges. I love this. Again, the styling of this is amazing. This, again, very late 70s, early 80s. It reminds me of VHS cassettes and BMX and stuff like things like that. Yeah, so for me, collecting, a big part of it is preserving history. So I try to collect them with the box always, because the box is also part of their history. Some took time to design the box. Usually speaks of its age as well. You can see the designs of the packaging change throughout the years. It's very simply designed, but I'm sure people would have seen this on the shelving and thought, I want this in my life.
So it's a Visicom 100. Was there ever a follow-on console?
As far as I'm aware, no. This is actually the first time I found out Toshiba made a console. Again, I only found out about this in the last couple of years and then had to hunt one down. But obviously it didn't do well enough for Toshiba to continue in this endeavor. The box is a huge part of nostalgia for us when we used to go into stores and maybe you couldn't afford the machines, but you would see the boxes on the shelves and you think, oh, you know, I would really like that. So it speaks of a moment, and it's great to have that remembered and captured.
Now, I'm sure our viewers are familiar with the Petticoat 5000 from an episode of Look Around You. I didn't really think that something like that actually existed, but here we have the Super Cassette Vision in lurid pink.
So this is a updated version of Super Cassette Vision, which originally came out by Epoch in 1984. I'm going to say, yeah, 84. This is the update in 1985, which was aimed towards the female demographic. It's known as the Lady Set. This is made by Epoch, who prior to 1983 and the Famicom's release were ahead of the game. They made the original Cassette Vision, and that was probably the best-selling console at the time. And then Nintendo in 1983 released the Famicom. It took another year before Epoch came out with the Super Cassette Vision, their follow-up, as a competitor to the Famicom. Unfortunately, it didn't do as well as they had hoped, and they thought they could maybe capture more of the market by creating a version for the female demographic. It came in this wonderful carrying case that comes with it as well, and it comes with the game Milky Princess. You can see the controllers for player 1 and player 2 are here, and again, then it's beautiful pink with bright pink A and B buttons.
And how do these controllers feel? Have you tried them with the game?
Yeah, so they're quite spongy. The controllers are digital, so 8-way directions, but a bit of spongy movement. Everything's very spongy. The games are quite fun on the console itself, but the controls leave a little to be desired.
And when these things are hardwired to the console, you break one, how do you replace it?
So if the controllers break, then you're buying a new console. On the other side of the case, you have space for the power brick, the RF cable, and a bunch of games here. So this is like a mock-up cardboard sleeve. They're done with all the different games you could have. So you have a little collection and you put them on the side there.
So it really was a console in a suitcase. Were there many games released, do you know?
Roughly 30 to 40-ish games came out for this console, but it was very clear after a while that the dominance of the Famicom had taken over everything in Japan.
Similar price and specification to the Famicom?
Price-wise, this came out a little more expensive than the Famicom, about 500 yen or so more. But obviously you got the case, you got the game with it as well, whereas the Famicom was just the Famicom on its own.
You've probably said this already. They were cartridges, not cassettes. The reason for my confusion is because it says cassette in the cartridge port there.
So yeah, exactly that. They actually come with cartridges. The thing, due to translation, the Japanese would call cartridges cassettes.
What do you think of it?
I love that machine actually. It's one of those things that were so unique at the time. Later on, you have Casio doing the Casio Loopy, which was a printing console for girls, and later on you'll see things like the pink Game Boy and the Hello Kitty Dreamcast, the pink PS2. You know, there's always been this movement to try to make something for the female demographic. I think Nintendo are the ones that have captured that the best by not necessarily aiming for them directly, but making it for everyone rather than just a specific group of people.
But the main thing is this is exactly the sort of thing that we would like to see at an event like this.
Yeah, so it captures that moment in time in Japan.